Have you ever asked yourself, is your money truly yours? Every day, we work, earn money, spend, and save. We place our trust in an invisible system, a vast network of banks, payment organizations, and financial institutions that we call the modern economy. We put our faith in names like Visa, PayPal, in central banks, in gatekeepers we have never met. But what if that trust is built on a fractured foundation? In 2008, Lehman Brothers, a 158-year-old financial giant, collapsed. The domino effect dragged the entire world into the Great Recession. Trillions of dollars of taxpayer money were pumped in to save the banks that were too big to fail. That was the moment the velvet curtain of stability was torn away, revealing a stark truth. The system we trust is, in fact, perpetually fragile. And deep within that fragility lie 5 shackles, 5 invisible chains that bind billions of people on this planet. Today, we won't just talk about the problem, we will dissect it, and we will explore a radical solution, a controversial idea presented in the white paper of a cryptocurrency project called Pi Network. In this video, we will expose the 5 core limitations of traditional finance, and more importantly, we will examine the 5 corresponding solutions that Pi proposes to answer the question, is this the dawn of a fairer economy or just a utopian dream? Join me on this journey, because what we are about to discover may change the way you look at the money in your pocket forever. Part 1. A mighty fortress or an invisible prison. Imagine the global financial system as a colossal fortress. Inside are the central banks, investment banks, and payment organizations. They are the ledger keepers, the gatekeepers. Every single transaction, from you buying a cup of coffee to sending money to your family abroad, must pass through these gates. Not a single cent can move without the permission, validation, and the fee collection of a licensed intermediary. This system provides stability, yes, but it also creates a terrifying concentration of power. History has proven, from the Great Depression of 1929 to the Asian financial crisis of 1997 and the disaster of 2008, that when these gatekeepers make mistakes, it is the ordinary people, the taxpayers, who pay the price. And that price is not just monetary. The Pi White Paper points out 5 invisible costs, 5 shackles that we bear every day. Part 2. Exposing the 5 shackles. Shackle number 1. Injustice, the value extraction machine. You work hard, you create value, you sell a product, provide a service. The cash flow is generated from your own labor and intellect. But who benefits the most from each transaction? Not you. It's the intermediaries, PayPal, Visa, investment banks. They build the infrastructure and then sit back and collect a toll on every transaction that passes through. They didn't create the shirt you sell. They didn't write the code you program, but they enjoy a massive portion of the profits. Meanwhile, the people who actually create value, the workers, the creators, the sellers, receive next to nothing from the operation of the system itself. The Pi White Paper calls this unjust value extraction. Like a giant machine, it siphons value from billions of ordinary people to enrich a small group at the top. Does that sound familiar? Shackle number 2, high fees, a burden on the poor. Have you ever tried to send a small amount of money abroad, $50, $100? You'll face a maze of fees, transfer fees, currency exchange fees, intermediary bank fees. In the end, the amount your relatives receive can be significantly less. For those of us in developed countries, a few dollars in fees might be nothing, but for a laborer in a developing nation, that fee could equal an entire day of hard work. This system punishes the most vulnerable. It erects an invisible barrier, making it absurdly expensive to send small amounts of money across borders. It turns kindness, help, and family obligations into a financial burden. This is the second shackle, exorbitant costs. Shackle number 3, censorship, the power of a click. The money in your bank is yours, but your access to it is not entirely. With just a suspicion, a reason that is sometimes vague, or even for political reasons, your account can be frozen. Your cash flow, the lifeblood of your life and business, can be halted with a single click by someone you don't even know. We have seen this happen to activists, dissidents, or simply people who were misdiagnosed by the system. This power of censorship creates an underlying state of fear. You have to be compliant if you don't want to be kicked out of the financial game. Your money is no longer a tool of freedom, but becomes a leash, a tool of control. This is the shackle of censorship. Shackle number 4, exclusion. The door is closed to 1.7 billion people. For many of us, opening a bank account is a given. But did you know there are 1.7 billion adults in the world who do not have a bank account? They are the invisible people of the financial system. Without an account, they cannot save safely, cannot get loans to start a business, cannot receive remittances efficiently, and cannot participate in the digital economy. They are excluded not because they are incapable, but because they do not meet the rigid requirements of banks: identification papers, proof of income, a fixed address. The traditional financial system, with its iron gates and luxurious regulations, has become an institution of power, a fortress wall preventing 1.7 billion people from entering the global economic world. This is the cruelest shackle: exclusion. Shackle number 5, invasion of privacy. Data is the new gold mine. To participate in the system, you must trade your most precious asset, your personal information. The bank knows where you spend, when you spend, and on what. They know your income, your debts, your financial habits. All of that information is collected, stored, and sometimes bought and sold. You become the product. Your data is their gold mine to exploit. We are forced to reveal too much information just to perform the most basic transactions. Privacy, a fundamental human right, has been severely eroded in the era of centralized finance. This is the final shackle, the shackle of the invasion of privacy. Structural injustice, concentrated benefits, distributed costs. That is the nature of the system. Financial corporations can get richer by hundreds of billions of dollars, while billions of people are still held back by these 5 invisible shackles. So, must we accept this reality? Is there no way out? The answer from the Pi Whitepaper is a resounding no. And they don't just point out the problem, they offer a blueprint to break every single shackle.
Part 3. Pi Network, 5 Golden Keys. Pi is not the first digital currency to challenge the system. Bitcoin, born from the ashes of the 2008 crisis, fired the first shot, initiating the decentralization revolution. But Bitcoin and Ethereum, as great as they are, inadvertently fell into a paradox. To fight the concentration of money, they created a concentration of computing power. The mining game became a race of mining rigs, huge GPU farms, and mining operations that consume as much energy as an entire country. Big capital and high technology once again became barriers. The game was still only for the few. Pi chose a completely different path, a path not based on the power of machines, but on the power of people. A philosophy encapsulated in one word: inclusivity. And here is how Pi counters the 5 old shackles. Key number 1, breaking injustice with decentralization. If banks monopolize the creation and distribution of value, Pi decentralizes it. Pi allows anyone with just a smartphone to participate in the creation of a new currency. You don't need expensive rigs, you don't need to consume mountains of electricity. You mine Pi not with processing power, but with your contribution to the community, by verifying you are a real person and by building a network of trust. Value is no longer extracted by an intermediary, but is distributed to the very people who participate in and secure the network. This is a radical redefinition of who has the right to create money. Key number 2, defeating high fees with technology. If high fees are a burden, Pi uses blockchain technology to reduce transaction costs to nearly zero. Let's return to the story of the immigrant worker. Now, with the Pi network, He can send money home to his family almost instantly with a negligible fee. 100% of the value he created will reach his loved ones. This is not just a technological improvement, this is an act of liberation. It lifts the financial burden from the most vulnerable people. Keys number 3 and 4. Opening doors for the excluded and fighting censorship with accessibility. If the old system controls access and excludes 1.7 billion people, Pi opens a completely different door. The only requirement? A smartphone. Something that today, even in the most poorest rural areas, is becoming increasingly commonplace. Pi can do what decades of traditional finance have failed to do: bring 1.7 billion invisible people into the global economy. And when you are part of a decentralized network, no single entity can arbitrarily freeze your assets. Power is no longer in the hands of a system administrator. It's in the hands of the community, protected by cryptography. And to solve the problem of trust, instead of relying on faceless institutions, Pi introduces a unique concept: the security circle. It's a social mechanism where trust between real people replaces the control of machines or institutions. You build security for the network based on your own social connections. And key number 5, protecting privacy with Web3. And finally, while banks force you to hand over all your personal information, Pi gives you back control. With the concept of a Web3 wallet, you can prove you are a unique human being through the KYC process without having to reveal your entire identity in every transaction. Your data is yours. You decide when, where, and how much information is shared. This is a fundamental difference from other models such as Sam Altman's WorldCoin, where you have to trade your biometric data, retinal scan, for money. Pi chooses not to make a trade-off, but to build on the trust and autonomy of its community. Part 4. From Philosophy to Reality, a Fairer Future. 5 solutions for 5 problems. It sounds perfect, but what's truly new about Pi is not just the blockchain technology. What's new is the philosophy, a currency that excludes no one. If Bitcoin was born from anger at the Wall Street financial crisis, Pi seems to be born from a deep concern. How can the most ordinary person in the most remote corner of the world also hold a global financial tool in their hands? We're not just talking about an app or a coin. We're talking about a network that already has over 55 million KYC verified users and over 10 million followers on social media, a number that no other cryptocurrency project has been able to achieve in its pre-mainnet stage. This is no longer just coin mining. This is a massive social experiment in redefining the role of community in finance. Pi is not racing against Wall Street. Pi is looking for a different starting point, a place where ordinary people are not left behind. A currency only has meaning when it enters real life. The Pi Whitepaper doesn't stop at technological promises. It sketches out an economy where users can buy and sell goods and services and make cross-border payments without fear of banks, without paying exorbitant fees, and without surrendering every private detail. Of course, this path is not paved with gold. To become real money, widely recognized, Pi must overcome enormous legal hurdles, the caution of governments, and the skepticism of the very traditional financial world it challenges. There will be questions about stability, scalability, and security. There will be those who call it a utopia, a scam. But history has shown us a rule. When a technology carries the power of inclusion, it will find its own way. The internet was once considered a luxury toy for academics. Now it is the vital infrastructure of humanity. Mobile phones were once a privilege of the rich. Now they have reached every remote village. Could a digital currency designed for inclusion, like Pi, follow a similar path? Part 5. Conclusion. Who holds the power? If the 20th century witnessed the rise of global banks, the financial empires that shaped the world, then the 21st century may mark a tectonic shift, the transfer of power from intermediaries to the strength of communities connected by blockchain. The Pi Whitepaper, with its seemingly simple words, has pointed out the truth that so-called modern finance is still rife with injustice, and the world can only become fairer when power is returned to the people. In a world where inequality is deepening, Pi does not promise to save everyone, but it has sparked a different vision, a vision of non-exclusive economy where value is shared more equitably and where the rules of the game are no longer written by a powerful few. The final question is not whether Pi will succeed. The real question is, what kind of financial world do we want to live in? A world controlled by gatekeepers, or a world built by the community itself? A world of exclusion, or a world of inclusion? What do you think about these 5 shackles and Pi's 5 solutions? Is this the future, or just a fantasy? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Our dialogue is part of this revolution. If you believe in a fairer and more open financial future, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss our next deep dive analysis. And don't forget to share this video, because an idea, just like a currency, only has value when it is spread. The revolution will not be televised, it's in your pocket. The future is not something to be predicted, it is something to be built. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.